Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Breul. I'm a senior project manager here at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. Today, I'm coming to you, as I have in a number of our previous traffic safety webinars, from the National Police Museum. What you see behind me are items that have been left behind at the memorial. And each year during May, during Police Week, a number of survivors and their families come and leave mementos behind, coins and a lot of personal items. And the museum does its best to collect those items and then put them into this rotating display behind me. We were going to have Will Price join us today, but we're having a technical difficulty with Will and his audio. So he's asked our other guest speaker, Jim Austrich, to touch on a couple of the things he was going to mention about what NHTSA is doing in terms of some crash studies and looking for crash data. What I'm going to do with everyone today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about some things going on at the memorial that I think you will be interested in. We're then going to look at the mid-year numbers for law enforcement fatalities. A mid-year report will be coming out from the Memorial Fund, and I, of course, will be preparing a second quarter report, which is basically a mid-year report. And we're going to discuss the numbers and look at some of the statistics that we've gathered already, and hopefully that can inform you guys as to what's going on out there with regard to line of duty deaths, particularly traffic related line of duty deaths. I'm also going to share with you a video. You may be aware that we produce police safety videos, and we try to make them timely, and we try to make them important in terms of how they touch on items of the day. And struck by crashes are certainly the most important thing we're facing right now, surely in terms of the statistics that we're experiencing here in 2021. So we're going to share with you, you'll be the test audience, a video that we just finished last week of an officer in Macedonia who was struck while on the scene of a crash, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and was able to recover and come back to work. Hopefully what he says and how we presented the information will be useful to law enforcement to get them to heed his warnings and not repeat what happened to him. So it's sort of a personal story from an officer telling about what happened to him in a crash. I'm going to just take you a little bit through the resources that we offer here at the Memorial Fund through our partnership with NHTSA. And then I'm going to finish it off by talking quickly about Police Week and what's happening in terms of October. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jim Austrich, who is going to be our guest speaker today. And Jim is the guru for traffic incident management. And he is the traffic incident, or TIM, program manager for Federal Highway. And he's going to talk about some, as I mentioned, some things that he might fill in for Will with. He also has some video he wants to share with us. I think it's all new video that none of you have seen. So if we can, I'm going to jump down and share my screen and jump into my presentation and take you through a few of the facts and statistics that we're looking at. This is the memorial. You should all be familiar with that if you've been to these webinars that we put on before. One of the things that's happening that I wanted to talk to you about, of course, we add names to the memorial every May. The fact is we've been running out of room. And in 2018, we began looking at alternatives to allow us to add more names to the memorial. Currently, there are 22,611 names of law enforcement officers who have died in the line of duty. And as you look at the next photos I'm going to show you, what we've done is the same architect who designed the memorial has designed what I refer to as a capstone project, but that's probably not the right term. It is really just additional space being added to the top of the memorial. So if you've ever visited the memorial, you will see that we've added some more space on top. If you can see this white line here, and I hope you can see my mouse, it's running along that line right there on either side, and you see we've added this space here. I'm conservatively estimating that we would be able to go another 20 years and another 10,000 names with the two additions. These are images from both our west and east wing of the memorial. And you see, if you can barely see down here, you see where the names stop. We're going to add, I think, a couple of more lines, and then we're not going to add any more names much further down because it's too hard to get down there, and it doesn't allow for people to leave these mementos that I was talking to you about today. So here's where we are today, and I know I always put up a lot of slides, and I don't want to bore people with slides, but hopefully I'm giving you some important information. You can find this on our website. It's updated every day, and you see where we are compared to 2020. And we have a big problem with a 46% increase in traffic-related line of duty deaths. And the big number within that 38 is 19, which is the number of officers who have been struck by vehicles. That number for struck bys is up over 136% from where it was at this time in 2020. And that'll be borne out by the annual report that'll come out, the mid-year report that'll come out shortly. So we've had a number of, as I mentioned, a number of line of duty deaths. In the month of June, there were 11 deaths, and 6 of those, many of them pictured here, were traffic-related incidents. We do have a Q&A function in this presentation. So as you're listening to this and you have questions, please send in your questions. And we've always had good questions, and we do our best to answer them or get your information and get back to you with whatever it is you're looking for. Let's look a little more closely at the traffic-related fatalities that we're experiencing now in 2021. There have been 15 automobile crashes, and within that group of automobile crashes, we always track single vehicle crashes because these are preventable crashes for the most part, and occur at a very high rate. And in some years when we've done a lot of studies, we found that almost half of the automobile crashes are in fact single vehicle crashes. And a lot of them are when officers are en route to a call, but many inexplicably are as officers are simply on patrol, responding to an administrative assignment, or en route to an administrative assignment like picking up a prisoner, dropping off a prisoner, or headed to training or something like that. You see the next number there is struck by vehicle. And just so everyone understands, for the Memorial Fund, struck bys are when officers are outside of their vehicle. We do track when vehicles are struck on the side of the road and the officer is inside their vehicle, either on a traffic stop or at a construction site or whatever it may be. And we've had 4 motor crashes, motorcycle crashes. And one of the things we like to point out from the motorcycle crashes as we look at the data is a significant number of these motorcycle crashes occur while motormen are doing escort duty, either a VIP or funeral escort. And it's very dangerous. You have officers who are, of course, are jumping ahead of traffic to cut and pull traffic off of certain intersections. And invariably a car either turns out of the procession and strikes a motorman, or the motorman going up to the intersection to cut that traffic gets struck by a motorist that, you know, alleges that they hadn't seen them. So that's one point we do stress with individuals that have motor officers. So a couple of sort of internal pieces of the crashes that we know so far. And I'd just remind everybody that we get preliminary data, and we have to go back and look at a lot of the information that gets sent to us down the road before we can pull it all together for final statistics. I just reran the number at the top. It's actually 7 of the drivers involved in collisions who were or officers who were struck by impaired individuals. 2 were struck by distracted individuals, and then 1 was a drowsy driver. 3 officers involved in auto crashes, we've already confirmed, did not have their seatbelts fastened. And as I keep data on these crashes, I look at, you know, what were the weather conditions? Was it night? Was it daytime? We kind of try and capture all that. And inclement weather so far, was rain, has been cited as a contributing factor in only 1 crash. All the rest of the crashes were at night in clear weather or during the day during clear weather. We also look at whether or not these crashes and struck bys involve a violation of that state's slow down and move over law. And you can see 10 of these 38 crashes already involve what we've determined a failure to obey the law and slow down and move over. Here are the 4 states currently with the highest number of traffic-related incidents, and a lot of you guys are law enforcement liaison folks, so I'll give you the NHTSA breakdown as well. But you see South Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and California are the 4 states with the highest number of law enforcement traffic-related fatalities so far this year. Here are the NHTSA regions, and normally, if you're familiar with these presentations and some of our reports, Region 6 used to always be the one that was circled. Region 6 is not one of the leading regions now. It's Region 4 and Region 9. Both of those regions are tied, I believe, with 8 of the crashes each. So it's 16 out of 38. So you're getting close to 50% of all the crashes come from those 2 regions right there. So I mentioned we were going to talk about struck by crashes, and this is important because if you see the high number of 19 for 2019, and by the way, for 2020, we had 15, we're only halfway through the year and we have already equaled 19. That's where we stand right now. And again, we're only halfway through the year. And we're already well ahead of the total for all of 2020, 2018, 2017, and so on. So there's really a problem. And again, 1 year does not make a trend. I understand that, but it certainly bears our scrutiny, and we need to raise awareness about this. As I mentioned, for 2020, the total was 15 struck by crashes. So one of the things, and I think you've seen this slide once before, is what were they doing? Because we want to know what are the most dangerous circumstances. And here you have it, 46%, and this is from data from 2015 to 2019. 46% of the officers struck while on the side of the road or engaged in a traffic enforcement of some type. The other large chunk of that data is 38% at the scene of a crash. And the reason I want to focus on the circumstances is because it takes us into our next feature, which is our latest safety video that we were up in Macedonia, Ohio, filming just last week. So I'm going to play this video and hopefully you'll find it interesting, and hopefully it tells the story that officers need to hear and reinforces what they need to do. So let me just hit play, and hopefully this should all work for everybody.
My name is Patrolman Brandon Heisler with the City of Macedonia, Ohio Police Department. On November 30th, 2019, shortly after 5 p.m., I was dispatched to a call of a motor vehicle crash. It's a common crash at that intersection. Traffic was stopped. Second car came up, was unable to stop in time, and rear-ended the first car. I was the first person on scene.
You guys aren't injured, are you? Do you want me to call an ambulance for you?
Occupants of one of the vehicles claimed injuries, so I contacted the fire department.
414 radio. 14. Do you have a squad respond? All complaints of lower back and leg injury. 2 patients, same car.
They arrived on scene. They placed cones to divert the flow of traffic and create a safety zone. I finished conducting my investigation. There was no reason to keep people on scene that weren't necessary.
Any questions?
Thanks, officer. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right.
Good to go? Or?
Yep, yeah. Go ahead, back out.
I stepped out into the road to stop the westbound traffic so that the driver of the second vehicle can leave.
Go ahead, back up.
I had my back turned to eastbound traffic. Driver drifted to the left, took out one of the safety cones, and hit me from behind. threw me up in the air. Oh, my ankle. I didn't know what happened. I didn't see the card. Actually, I think my vest is what saved me. The vest absorbed the impact when I laid on my back. Thankfully, paramedics were still on scene. And immediately ran over and started treating me.
All on my right ankle. Right ankle? All on my right ankle, yeah.
Put me in the ambulance and took me to the emergency room. Unfortunately, I had a fracture of my right ankle and a second fracture higher up on the lower right leg. Had to have surgery. After the surgery, I was off a total of 7 months. It was, it was rough. Now, after being hit and luckily coming back to work, I would actually tell officers, you have to be aware of your surroundings all around you. Wear your safety equipment, wear your PPE, wear your vests. Whenever I'm on a crash scene or I'm doing anything where I'm standing near traffic, I always make sure to wear a high visibility vest. The first time I watched the video, honestly, I was shocked. Your mind wanders. You tend to think about what could have happened and how close I came to it being much more serious. I was very thankful that my injuries were only what they were. A couple more inches and I could have had much more severe injuries, if not been killed.
Okay, so that was our video that you just got an opportunity to see, and I hope you picked up on the officer's warning not only to be aware of your surroundings, but also to wear your high visibility vest. But he also commented on something which we keep track of here at the Memorial Fund, which is using your body armor and wearing your body armor. You know, we want you to buckle up, and I've put this slide in here to remind everybody the statistics. But the other thing we also want to make sure officers are doing is wearing their body armor. You heard it from Officer Heisler. He said, I think my vest helped save me. It absorbed part of the impact. And so when we're looking at motor vehicle crashes as well as struck-bys, we want to know if officers had their vests on or not. We believe it can make a difference in protecting you from a crush injury or in a traffic crash. This statistic I shared in our last webinar, and I think it just bears repeating, 47% of officers were confirmed not to have been buckled up. Out of 151 fatal auto crashes from 2015 to 2019, 47%, that's almost half of the crashes, the officers were not wearing a seatbelt. Similarly, I mentioned single vehicle crashes and seatbelts, and here again, you see for single vehicle crashes, 53%, over half, were not wearing their seatbelt. And these are things that we need to focus on with our folks to get them to wear their safety equipment. If you want to lower your risk and enhance your safety, wear your body armor, wear your seatbelt, wear your high visibility reflective vests. Make sure, if you can, tactically position your vehicle so you can protect yourself. Create that safety lane. Conduct a right side approach. You saw Officer Heisler actually did go to the right side of traffic when he was talking to the passengers of all those vehicles. And then make sure your vehicles are conspicuously marked. We might hear a little bit more about that from Tim and Jim Austrich. And then you're about to learn a little bit more about it, but if you haven't learned about the traffic incident management training and how crash scenes should be managed, which we're going to hear a little bit more about, make the effort to do that. Having said that, this is just a quick snip picture of our officer safety tab on our website. So if you go to our website and you see we have this navigation bar at the top, this is only part of it, you'll see officer safety. If you click on that, it's going to bring you down here to all of the officer safety items that we have. And there's partnership for traffic safety. You can then log in and get our mini presentations that you can download to use. You can see our officer safety videos, which we're going to add the one of Officer Heisler to once it's fully completed and done and approved. You'll see we have quick fact sheets, and of course, those fact sheets cover seatbelts and single vehicle crashes and struck-bys. And then the next quarterly law enforcement fatality report, which I'll put together, should be up there in the next couple of weeks. We also have a link to the Responder Safety Institute, which can help you get a traffic incident management certificate. I said I'd mention a little bit about Police Week. You may or may not be aware, because of COVID, during May of 2021, we did not have the normal Police Week ceremonies that we have had in the past. It was decided to then put on an in-person event during Police Week from the 13th through the 17th. There are actually more items and activities that are going to occur, but here is just a quick list of some of the things that are happening. I think the most important is this one here, the Candlelight Vigil. We will also be putting on a Destination Zero conference, which will have officer safety sessions that's going to cover everything from traffic safety to suicide awareness for law enforcement officers to wellness and tactical safety. There'll be a whole sort of potpourri, if you will, of officer safety and wellness offerings. And then there will be the National Peace Officers Memorial, which will be held on the West Lawn of the United States Capitol, the way it has been in years past. This is my information. We can make this presentation available to you. And my telephone number is up there as well. If anybody wants to jot that down, they can. Otherwise, you can reach me on my cell phone and or get in touch with me through lawmemorial.org. We got a lot of, I think, good information in that short presentation, and I hope you liked what we did with the Heisler video. I was appreciative of him telling his story and sort of saying, now I didn't have my visibility vest on then, but I do now. And the short story of what happened to him was it was a distracted driver. She was looking at the fire department and looking at what they were doing when she ran over there's actually more than one cone out there, and she hit the second cone and then ran right into Officer Heisler. So with that, let me turn it over to James Austrich. Jim and I have known each other for a number of years. I worked with him on the DC Police Department when I was the traffic safety lieutenant, and he certainly taught me a great deal, and he's very knowledgeable, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what's happening at Federal Highway and traffic incident management. Jim?
Thanks, Nick. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Jim.
Okay, very good. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and it was an honor to work with Nick, and I want to thank the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, as well as NHTSA Will Price, who's on with us today. I work, just real briefly, I work for the Office of Operations at the federal level, US DOT, Federal Highway Administration, as Nick said, sister agency to where Will Price hails from, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So I want to thank Will and Nick for allowing me to make this presentation. On behalf of Will, who has some tech issues today, and as we all can attest to from occasionally ourselves having audio issues, I want to thank NHTSA and Will and give a shout out about two big projects that NHTSA has funded Federal Highway to be a part of, and these are two major research projects. For the first time ever that I recall, NHTSA has shared federal funding with FHWA, and one is on the move over law, the compliance or non-compliance of move over law, and the efficacy, and really, as Nick has already touched on, and I will as well, the problem that exists out there, whether it's distracted, impaired, and drowsy drivers. We refer to them as the D drivers, dangerous drivers. for sure. And you as majority, I'm sure here, law enforcement and your communities within your jurisdictions, obviously you're dealing with these high risk activities out on our interstates and honestly on the local roads too, because officers are being struck and killed, as well as firefighters, paramedics, you know, EMTs and towers and transportation workers in the course of their activities trying to, responding to these crashes and other traffic incidents. The other big project that NHTSA will Price is supporting us with research is actually on the responder struck by problem that exists. First deep dive into this project. We're in our first year, both of these projects, by the way. We still have quite a ways to go, but we're really taking a close look as to the causation of these type of incidents. And whether their officers are within their squad cars, outside of their squad cars, tending to doing traffic enforcement or traffic control at a crash scene, what have you. But I'll mention as well that what we're finding real quick, and I'll say this again a little bit later, is the data. Everything is data driven, and it's so important that as Nick mentioned, the Memorial Fund, Law Enforcement Memorial Fund tracks in terms of these, the statistics and try to better understand what's going on out here. But let me share, so a big thank you to NHTSA, bottom line, and we look forward to those final reports when they come out, and we'll be able to share at another time the findings. Very good. So I have about 25 slides here. Maybe I can go quickly, through some of them, but I also have 3 real quick videos to share as well that really make the point of the high risk, high hazard job that we face out there. So just as a standard, if I mention any manufacturers or vendors during this presentation, we don't endorse any of them products or manufacturers, just FYI. So why TIM? Why traffic incident management? And although this is 2018 data, you can see the numbers. They don't change much by year as far as the total number of fatalities. We're actually over 36,000 for 2020. And the injuries, as you can see, they're approaching 2 million or more, property damage, et cetera. But it's a huge number, right? We're all familiar with it. We've all possibly been involved in crashes and the hazards that exist working, driving on our interstates. Speeding is up, the pandemic, the past year and a half, although the volume of traffic has been down, but speeds have been up, and the statistics bear the result. The exposure, as you've heard Nick and I said, obviously the responders, that's our top priority in terms of the TIM training that I'll talk about in a minute. Yes, but good TIM practices and the fundamentals that we train in our 4-hour responder course, so that collectively responders understand, respect one another's duties, and very importantly, try to clear these incidents as quickly as possible to avoid secondary crashes, of which many are fatal as well. But as I said, it's a high-risk business, and responders are at our top of the list as far as safety, and of course, the motorists. The slide to the right, if you will, TIM is an evidence-based low-cost solution. We're working on several other projects on helping make the case for TIM using the statistics, as I said, data collection from either the crash reports as well as data that is being collected by the DOT traffic management centers and various other sources. We're working with all 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico to enhance and further collect the data. Mainly, most importantly to us really is the crash reports, and that's where you come in as law enforcement liaisons and veteran police. Doesn't matter, sheriff, state police, local police, etc. Super important that you share this this information, and we like to say within your sphere of influence, if you will, if you haven't already. I'll touch on this because it's a big part of what we do as well. Obviously, again, the responder struck by problem as of the beginning of the year. What you see here is what we collect and we consider part of what constitutes a responder struck by, and that is whether they're working a crash, debris on the road. It could be an officer writing a citation, medical emergency, etc. We have a defined specific definition on what constitutes a responder struck by. Again, you can see here, again, the bullet injuries could be 100 times greater. As a matter of fact, we know, but that number we don't have a really good handle on. And that's part of what our research project on the responder struck by and move over is going to hopefully get us to at some point in the near future. The vehicle strikes, the property damage, we know they could be in the thousands, you know, for sure. You can ask any police chief, state police colonel, DOT, any risk manager that has fleet management, fleet services under them. And from what we've gathered so far is many that occur, and thankfully no one is killed or injured, but something to keep within the you know, our equation to better understand. I've provided some links here. You'll see them repeated further down in another slide, so you can share with your constituents your forces within your state for the training. So here's one of the videos. You'll see two back to back. They're both on the March 24th of this year on Maryland 95. And it's amazing that two motorists, and I'm going to just start playing it real quick and narrate it. There's no audio, but you'll see obviously raining, wet pavement, and there's a police cruiser way back in the shoulder. I don't know if you can see it, but the video is being shot from a DOT, what we call safety service patroller. There he is now. He stepped out of the vehicle. There's some cones set up behind his service patrol truck. And as he's walking back to make an adjustment, obviously looking at traffic, thankfully, bam, there you see one motorist lose control. Had he been a little further upstream, would have easily been hit. But to add insult to injury, you'll see here, he goes over. Just let this run through. It's not that long. He'll go over. You see the trooper in an unmarked pull up, and the service patroller walks over to talk to the motorist. No injury. Thankfully, there's some minor damage to the SUV as traffic's flying by. And next thing you'll see here, trooper steps out, and that pretty much is where that ends. Now you're going to see the second half of this, where the vehicle is realigned on the shoulder, and troopers back there, and the motorist, safety patroller is pulling up, obviously, but the motorist is assisted to get out, as if you will, once that lane is clear, and he does so. in our training, and you know this, but sometimes we're so focused on our jobs, we're not keeping at least one eye on traffic. And I was a practitioner at one time. Most of my career, 27 of the 30, have been with the DOT, and I've actually experienced this, but I always had the fear of God when I was out there. And that's what I think partly what kept me alive, because when you think of all the different D drivers that I mentioned, here you see the service patroller back up again. He's going to step out here. And this is all within like 15 minutes of each other. Okay. You'll see him step out, walk back to along the shoulder. Obviously he's watching traffic, and goes to collect a cone here. You'll see, I think he's on the radio there, probably talking to his dispatch. And then he goes to grab a cone here and start the process of picking them up, which is how we train, always looking at traffic, and bam, there comes another SUV, this time behind him. And it's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Now, this is wet pavement, obviously, but as Nick made a point earlier about the research they're doing is, and these are facts, and you as LEL know, most crashes happen with dry pavement, daylight hours and dry pavement. And so why wouldn't you train and understand that, my God, when the pavement's, snow, ice, rain, what have you, it's even more imperative that you be vigilant. And that again is what we train in our TIM responder training. This last one here occurred in South Palm Beach, Florida. I-95 again, southbound. There was an incident involving police activity upstream that we can't see, obviously. And this service patroller in the foreground has the video on. The other one over here, I hope you can see my cursor, he's back here with his arrow panel. And they've got traffic delineated, channelized off the interstate. All 4 lanes are closed. The 2 service patrollers are standing over here on the shoulder. And what you're about to see is a Tesla that's in full auto mode that blows through the cones back here. And the vehicle is in full auto mode, as I said, and manages to not hit the service patroller, fortunately, because it had the technology on. And I might as well just tell you, once it passes, state police, Florida State Police, managed to pull him over, and the driver attested to the fact that the vehicle was in full auto and he was texting. So here you go. This is a quick one. And notice the patrollers over here, but here comes the Tesla. And it missed the service patrol vehicle. You can see some cones displaced back here, the hole that he made. Now, this type of technology, I'm sure you're hearing a lot about it. Our office also has a team involved in connected automated vehicle technology. The autonomous vehicle technology, which is basically driverless. I sometimes say, I hope not, I'm not around for those, for that time when that occurs, because I just can't see myself ever taking my hands off the wheel. But it will come. You see the service patrollers back here picking up. And by the way, they've got flares at every other one of these cones. But as I started to say, the technology, our office, obviously NHTSA heavily involved with this technology, and many universities with the Federal Highway Administration and NHTSA, and I dare say as well, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration for your commercial motor vehicle component. So thought you might find those videos of interest. Next is the training. This is a snapshot of as of June 7th. I thought I'd have the newer statistics. I get these at least once a month from a contractor who maintains the National TIM responder training. But since the summer of 2012, when the responder training was actually launched, it was designed by responders for responders by the National Academy of Sciences and the Transportation Research Board. But it was launched through what we funded, or what we called train the trainer sessions that you can see here. As of the 7th, we funded, there's been 484 sessions since that summer of 2012. The in-person training had over 18,000 4-hour sessions, training 416,000. And the online training that's been, fortunately, that we developed in 2014 was taken advantage of, and still is, because of the pandemic. Remote training is, in-person training is coming back. However, the online training is something that the responder community has taken to heart. And you can see the numbers there, for a total of over 34,000 responders trained. Our goal is to train over 1 million responders, well over 1 million. Here's the breakdown, with law enforcement having trained thus far, 120,000. No, 135,000. I'm looking at this wrong. Pardon me. Anyway, you can see the breakdown there. This PowerPoint will be available for anyone that's interested through the Memorial Fund NICS team. Here you can see a series of maps real quick. These are the train the trainer sessions. States are actually conducting train the trainer sessions still, state-led, what we call state-led. You can see over here to the right. Some of them have been virtual, which there's going to be more virtual train the trainer sessions. If you're interested, my contact information along with my colleagues that you'll see at the end. Feel free to reach out. Here are the numbers broken down by web-based and in-person. The number in parentheses are the web-based numbers for each state. And the total, again, that over 534,000. Just moving on quickly, this is a goal, national goal, percentage goal of 45% that we established a couple of years ago. We're actually going to be changing it in 22 to 50%, because we have over half the states now that have reached the 45% train. That's the population, that number that you see in parentheses under the percentage. That's the population of responders, all disciplines combined: police, fire, rescue, EMS, transportation, public works, and towing, that each state estimated. And these were estimates. The estimates, they weren't exact numbers, but it was a way for us to track the numbers. And you can see down in the lower left that 1.158,265. And it's actually a higher number that really needs to be trained. So next generation TIM, you'll just, as fast as I can here, there's a project through the Federal Highway Administration through the Everyday Counts initiative. Everyday Counts has been in existence now for almost 10 years. And the training, the responder training, was actually supported under EDC 2. Next Gen TIM, focusing on local roads, away, or more focus on local roadways, rural and remote roadways. Next Gen TIM was, again, as I said, EDC 6, Everyday Count 6. It's a 2-year project. We're about 6 months into it, and these are the focus areas. Read it for yourself, but again, the training is the hallmark of the program, and so important. And as I mentioned, TIM data, whether it's crowdsourced data and other data that you'll hear me speak about here in a minute, but expanding the programs to roadways focused on local roads. This is a big deal. And the technologies that you'll hear about here in a minute, proven yet underutilized, not necessarily new, is what we're pushing, such as unmanned aerial systems. You saw a little icon there. But first, the TIM training, just for your information, is being updated for the second time. This is the second refresh for the National Responder Training. We have 5 tech lessons that are going to be part of the national training materials, which include, as you heard me say, UAS and CAD integration, computer-aided dispatch integration with traffic management centers. And obviously the web-based training and virtual training have to mirror the in-person training. And all of this, by the way, is free to the responder community, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. The institutionalization part of the training is an incredible accomplishment for all of us because we have now over 160 public safety academies that have adopted the 4-hour TIM training for new recruits, new cadets, and as well as in-service post training requirements that all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with. So here's the slide I mentioned earlier, at no cost to the responders. When you get some time, all these links that I shared here is where you can go to get the training. And the last 2 is our TIM webpage program, TIM program webpage. And very important, that point of contacts list at the bottom, where you can reach out to whatever state, you know, if your particular state or another state, if you will, you're moving there, what have you. Those folks are the people you contact to coordinate training. TIM data, again, part of the Next Gen TIM initiative. Top of the list, crash reports. We work with Will and obviously NHTSA and NTSB and Federal Motor Carrier and Governor's Highway Safety Association to try to influence TIM elements within the muck. And but our biggest hurdle is getting states to adopt the performance measures. The 3 main ones, actually there's 4 now because we're talking more about responder struck by, but incident clearance time, roadway clearance time, and secondary crash. Those 3 elements in particular adopted by the muck. And you heard me talk about PSAP and CAD. Just the collaboration between traffic management centers and law enforcement in terms of the data. And then of course the analysis, and I won't get too deep into this. There's dashboards that are out there that have been developed to substantiate and show the benefits that good TIM practices bring to the table, and certainly life, health, and life safety. And of course, performance measures and the resources and analysis, et cetera, et cetera. I know I'm running out of time here. I've been going on for a while. The CAD integration that I mentioned from level 1 to 4. Sorry, my slide got out of whack there a little bit. But basically, there are a number of states now, I want to say over 30, that are integrated with traffic management centers. And this is a big deal. And the resources that TMCs can bring as far as sharing video and just in general traffic incident information back and forth, and to the driver out in the field. I mentioned UAS, huge one for crash reconstruction. You'd be surprised. It's, again, not old, not a new technology as with CAD integration, but we're heavily involved with a number of experts within law enforcement that are part of the Next Gen TIM community. I should say national team to support the project. That we can bring and do webinars, peer exchanges, just various different activities to inform agencies individually or whatnot. But UAS is a big deal. And then you can see down the line, it's used for other things outside of crash reconstruction. But I'm very partial to the crash reconstruction for the obvious safety of for officers being out and taking all their, total station measurements and all, being on foot on the ground versus, for several hours versus 45 minutes, an hour or less. So that's a big deal. Next, you heard me mention video sharing. You can see here, Maryland on the left, the Maryland State Highway Service Patrol truck on scene with live video. This is streaming back to the Traffic Management Center. And obviously a no-brainer resource asset that we're promoting across the country. Here you can see responder to vehicle alerts. You may have heard of Make Way or iCone, or a big one in Washington, D.C., actually, the Haas alert, which they can equip transponders in response vehicles to avoid collisions at intersections. And or the component to the right where they work with navigation organizations to inform, like Waze, such as Waze, to inform motorists of crashes and other traffic incidents along our roadways. But the responder to vehicle alert systems is I think Haas is leading the way, if I'm not mistaken, in a number of states that are testing the Haas alert. I want to let you know that there's the second week in November every year is National Traffic Incident Response Awareness Week, but as the slide says it's going to be rebranded because of pushback, a long title, and we're looking for something a little bit more friendly as far as social media and marketing and public education and outreach. So that's actually happening as we speak. And we've this is the 6th year of NTIRAW, and we've established a formal association, national association, collaboration, which includes IACP, national sheriffs, and State Association of Chiefs of Police, along with all the fire associations, towing, transportation, public works, et cetera. And so we have a lot of work going on, but the committee for that first bullet has been formally established, and then working with the states leading up to that week. There's a lot going on from what do you call them? Proclamations. I'm having a senior moment there. Sorry about that. Proclamations signed by the governors for traffic incident management, having to do with everything that we've discussed today. And with that, here is Paul Joden, my colleague, and Joe Tebow, our email addresses. Please feel free to reach out if you have any thoughts, questions, any help whatsoever. We're here to help. And with that, I want to thank Nick and the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, as well as Will Price with NHTSA. Stay safe.
Hey, Jim, thank you so much for all that information. We did get some questions, a couple of questions, and I'll make it quick. Someone had asked, are we sharing our presentation? Yeah, the answer is yes, we will. And I think that's obviously the best way. We put up a lot of information in there, and I will make sure this gets put up on our website so you can see this presentation. We're going to clean it up a little bit and make sure that the video that I shared with you is okay to show. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but we always want to make sure that everyone's okay with it. So we will definitely share that and make that available. One question that came in, and I think this is for you, Jim, is towing and recovery involved in the training for TIMS?
Absolutely. And they happen to be, sadly, the ones most struck and killed as a matter of history, if you will. So yes, the Towing Recovery Association of America is the mothership. Their executive director, Cindy Martineau, and Joanne Blyton out of Montana are heavily involved and have been, actually. And by the way, we have support letters endorsing the National TIM Responder Training, Nick, and everyone from all the associations, IACP, as well as IADLS too.
Very good, very good. We had another question regarding, do we get, let's see, does this presentation cover DUI crashes as well? If you mean by that, do we capture data of impaired drivers striking officers? The answer is yes. And very often we have a preliminary information I gave in that first slide. And I think there was 7 crashes already tied to DUI crashes. If you're talking crashes involving just regular crashes, not involving law enforcement, that's not data I would grab, but I'm sure NHTSA or even maybe Federal Highway would have information on that. The last thing I wanted to point out with regard to the struck by crashes that we talked about, I said we had 19 for this year. And so I just want everyone to understand that of that 19, only 4 of those were not secondary crashes. In other words, there were 4 out of those 19 cases that involved officers being deliberately run over in other circumstances, not tied to removing debris, making a traffic stop, or being on the scene of a crash, or being on a construction site, or whatever it was that would constitute a struck by that is a roadside crash as a result of a secondary number. So the numbers are still very high, even if you pull out those 4. And one of those 4 was an officer struck who was laying down stop sticks or tire deflation devices to stop an impaired driver. And I think that's all the questions we have. Again, we're going to put this up on our website. It'll be in that spot where I showed you under the Officer Safety and Wellness tab. I want to thank Jim Austrich for coming and speaking with us today. And I apologize again for our technical difficulties with Will, but I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. These are quarterly webinars, and we try to bring you the best information we can. If there's something specific that you'd like us to touch on, please reach out to me. Again, I'll put this up so you can find my email. And send me a question or a suggestion if you have for a future webinar. Thanks all, and be safe.